So let's take up question number 18. What are web parts? In the previous session, we had discussed about building reusable components, where we had built reusable components using ASCX files, and we had also built up reusable components using web controls, right? One of the very important features which any reusable component should have is customization and personalization according to business user. In today's world, when you build a website, personalization and customization are features, which basically show that how concerned you are about a business user, right? Now web parts helps us to build reusable components which can be customized and personalized according to business user. For instance, let's say that you have a website which basically has news and it also has weather report. Now what can happen is that some of the users are only interested in seeing the news and not the weather report, so they can go and they can personalize the site page according to their wishes and they can only see the news. Now what we'll do is that in this session we'll first see that what basically web parts is theoretically, and in the coming up session we will actually try to deliver a web part in SharePoint. Okay, so moving up to the second point in web part. Web part is nothing but it's a simple class which basically inherits from system.web.ui.webcontrols.webparts, right? Web parts are deployed in web part zone control, right? So first thing, web part is just a simple class. Second point, they are deployed in the web part zone control. Okay, the web part zone control is nothing but it's a container type of tag, where you need to put your web part tag. We'll see that how web part zone control looks like, but at this moment this is just a theoretical discussion, which will help us to fundamentally make our base strong so that we can understand web part in a more better way. Now in order to deploy the web part in the web part zone control, we have an extra manager called as a web part manager. The web part manager responsibility is to add and remove web part from the web part zone. So you can probably have number of web parts on your site, and web part manager will help you to remove and add web parts to the web part zone control, web part zone. The web part manager basically acts like a controller, right? Here's a simple example of a web part. Basically I have made a simple label web part, a customized label web part, where a user can go and customize the label text of the web part. So basically web part looks something like this, and you can see a drop down here in a web part. Whenever you build a control as a web part, and you deploy it, you will see a drop down like this, and it will help, and it will have a menu called as modify my web part. So you can click on that. The end user can do this. Basically whatever I'm speaking now at this moment is from the end user perspective. So end user sees a lot of customization here which he can do with the web part, and I have included my personal customization where he can go and change the text of the label, and he says apply. Now with that you will see that basically the label data has changed. Now this is the view mode and the previous one was the edit mode. Now you must be thinking that basically when you make a ASCX control, you can always make master screens or customization screens which can basically do all these features for you, right? For example, what is so special about web part? In other words, if I say, okay, if I want to make this label, this customizable label through a simple ASPX page, what I need to do? I need to basically create a simple master screen which basically helps me to have all these properties, right? I have all this text, etc. But that is what the use of web part is. When you deploy your functionality as a web part, you get this built-in screen. You get this built-in screen as the web part framework. You don't need to build this screen from scratch. That's the first thing. Second, things like for example, if I change this data according to administrator, only the administrator should be able to view that changes. Means personalization according to users. These all things are handled by web part itself. So whatever you change for a web part according to the user, it's saved in the content database, right? And it is retrieved depending on the user who has logged in. So these all functionality, or this all this all extra work you don't have to do. It's already been included as a part of the framework. So if you really see what I've done for this simple customizable web part is that I've just concentrated on the functionality. The other things have been provided by the web part framework itself. For example, the screen of customization, the logic where it says that save this data according to the user logged in. These all things are built in by the web part framework itself. So I need to only concentrate on my functionality. So that's the biggest advantage of building your reusable functionality using web part. Now, one of the important things to remember is that when to use a web part and when not to use a web part. Basically, if you think that you want to provide customization and personalization, it is good to use web part, because as web part saves customization according to user logged in, it definitely makes your system slower. So definitely there is a huge impact on the performance in case you start building up reusable functionality using web parts. So you have to make a choice saying that, do I need to do customization on this reusable functionality? If yes, then use web part, because because not only your database size increases with web parts, because as the web part has to save the personalized and customized information according to user, retrieve it, etc., etc. Definitely there is a lot of backend logic which flows when a user sees a web part or when it is deployed. So the only one reason you would like to use web part is you want to provide customization and personalization feature according to user. If you have a functionality which you think that it will not require customization and personalization, you can probably deploy it as a ASGX or a simple web control or simple reusable control.